Hello, how are you holding up? You're welcome to Summit Ace Sessions, and in this particular session we are going to explore examining data in Stata, and of course I'm your tutor, Charles Natuhamya. Examining data before analysis is so important because firstly it saves you time when you reach the analysis stage, and then it saves you from making common mistakes that can actually cost you greatly. I personally never used to, take some time to pause and examine my data sets till one time I received a data set that I tried to analyze for over I think 6 hours and couldn't actually get through with it. It took me a lot of time, not knowing that actually it only required about 15 minutes. So when I stopped and examined my data set, I took a little bit of, it was about 16 or 15 minutes to get done with it. So firstly, let's explore what we're going to look at. We're going to look at how to use edit, browse, list, and then describe and code book, and then lastly how we can create summaries. So let's look at how to use edit. Edit is pretty much simple to use. First of all, I want to import my data set that I'm going to be using. So import delimited, and I'll open the location of my data set, which is right here. Of course, I'll copy the path and paste it right here and run. So this is my data set I'm going to be using. So if I want to look at how this data set appears, I'll use the command edit. Edit brings a spreadsheet style window for entering new data and editing the existing data. So if I type edit here in my command window and run, this is how it looks like. Alternatively, I can just use edit. It gives you the same thing. Okay, so let's look at browse. Browse is similar to edit, only that in browse, when you use browse, you cannot go ahead to edit your data set. So browse, if I type browse here, this is what I have. So if I try to maybe add something here, it can't allow me. Yet if I use edit, I can be able to add maybe some value here. Okay, so I can be able to edit my data set. Let us move on, and of course before we move on, you can even use your toolbar here. So this is for edit and this is for browse. So instead of typing this, you can just use these two icons right here. So let's look at how you can list your values or variables in a data set. So use the command list, and this basically displays the values of the variables. So there are a couple of ways you can use list. First of all, I can just type list here. When I type list, it will bring the whole data set in this results window. So this is what it will do. So it has brought all the values in my data set. Alternatively, I can maybe choose to say list info. So maybe I want to look at the first 4 values. So if I enter this, actually it gives me the 4th, not the first 4. If I want to look at the first 4, I will say list in 1, then 4. So this gives me the first 4. So if I just do list 4, it gives me the 4th, okay, on the list. So let's move on. Maybe if you want to list age, you can say list age here. So it just gives you a list of the age right here. Alternatively, I can choose to list 2 variables. I can say list sex and then age. This is what it does. Okay, it has listed sex and age. Else I may want to go on and maybe use the if command in my list. For example, I want to list the age of males. Now in my data set, these ones that you see here, they represent males and the zeros are for females. If I want to check to list the age of only males, I'll come here and I say list, okay, list age if list age if my sex here is equal to, you have to use double equal signs, is equal to 1. So what it did here, it only brought the list of age for male. You can also of course list the age or weight for females. Else, now if I may explore my data set here, now this first variable here represents the ID for students. Now this data set I'm using was for certain students from several schools. So this is the ID of a student and this is the ID of the school. Now I may want from this data set to know students from school number 5. Students from school number 5. So what do? So I'll come here and I say list if maybe I want to list their age. I'll say maybe list age, okay, list age if the school ID is equal to 5. So in this case, I'll be listing the age of students in school number 5. Alternative, I can just even list everything. So I'll say list if school ID is equal to 5. So I got a list of only students in school number 5. Else I may be asked to maybe get to know the details of a certain student whose ID is maybe 120. So what I do here is I will say list if student ID is equal to 120. So I get the details of the student whose ID is 120. Let's look at our next component here. Of course, we've looked at browse and edit and of course list. So let us look at how we can identify variable types, and in this case we are going to use two commands. One is describe, another one is codebook. So if I come here and I type describe, okay, this is what I get. Of course, you can even use the short form and just do this, describe. So what it does here is it gives me a little bit of some details. I'm able to tell the variable type. So this is an integer, this is a byte, this is float, and stuff like that. I may also use what we call codebook. Okay, I may use codebook. So what codebook does, it examines variables, names, labels, and data to produce a codebook for describing variables. So if I use codebook, this is what happens. It even goes ahead to give me the mean and standard deviation, of course, more details. Okay, let me try to push my window a little bit. So this is what it does. It gives me a lot of stuff, even the missing variables, values. It's saying none is missing. Among the 40, all are there. So the unique values are 40. So even the percentiles and the mean, of course. And even it's showing me how this is a float. So let's move on and look at the next component. If I want to create summaries, I want to summarize my data set before I even go on to analyze it. So what do? I will come here and I say, I will use actually the command called summarize. So I may want to actually summarize my age and weight. I will come here and I say summarize age and weight. If I run this, so I'll have gotten my command. Let me run it again for good viewing. So I'll have summarized my two variables, age in years and weight in kilograms. So there are 40 observations. This is the mean of age and this is the mean of weight. Standard deviation, this is the minimum or the youngest student, and this is the maximum age of the eldest student. So I may want to go ahead and actually put a little bit of some detail. Maybe I want to summarize age, but I want some bit of detail. So I come here and I use summarize again. I use summarize again, and then I'll put the age I want to summarize and add detail. Okay, so if I run this, it goes on to give me several percentiles. It gives me the smallest and the mean and deviation, variance, skewness, and kurtosis. So when I add detail, it gives me a little bit of some details. Lastly, I may want to summarize a certain variables by another variable, what I will call the group variable. For example, if I want to create the summary of weight by 6, what do? I will use another command within summarize, which is called by sort. So I'll say by sort. Okay, by sort 6. So by sort is followed by the variable you want to group another variable with. So this is the group variable. So by sort 6, then summarize. By sort 6, then summarize. Now I want to summarize weight in this case. So I'll go on to run this. So what happens here is that it summarized weight into 2. So this is the weight summary for females, and this is the weight summary for males. Of course, you can go on to use other commands here and there, but the main purpose of this session was to give you some heads up of examining your data set before going on to analyze, because if you don't do that, it may create a bit of problems. Okay, so in this case, you can be able to know the missing values if they exist. You can be able to tell that maybe I have some missing values in my data set, and then you go ahead to know how to go about it. Because, for example, when I ran this, it gave me the results as 0 among the 40, so there's no missing values here, so I don't need to go ahead and think of how I can treat my missing values. But in case they are there, you're able to get to know ahead of time that you have missing values in your data set, and then go ahead to map out a way of how to go about it. So I guess that our time has been well spent. In case, of course, you have a question or you want to share something that we can learn, you can use the contacts at the end of this video. So it's a bye from me, and I wish you the best.